election of the committee chair. You can either nominate or you can volunteer. I think you're muted now.
I'm happy to act as either. Are we missing anyone tonight?
Yeah, we'll come on to apologies in a minute. Next item, but let's say you can. Are you willing to stand as chair?
Yeah.
Everybody else happy with that?
Yeah.
2 L's, and let's remember the 2 L's. I had an ex-boss who was 1 L. That's right. I'm so used to doing 1 L. So it's over to you, Councillor Marshall as chair. So next item is, I don't know if you've got the agenda there. Apologies for absence. Well, we've got a standing apology at the moment from Councillor Rush, as you're probably aware, and Councillor Keddy can't make it tonight because it's the fringe, so he has a commitment with that. If you're happy to accept those.
Yep, happy to accept those apologies.
2 councillors here, yeah. What we used to do in lockdown times, the good old days, was ask for anybody against, rather than, because if some are online and others aren't, it's easier to say anybody against it than to say who's for it. So if we could keep that tradition, so.
Okay, so anybody against accepting those apologies then? No.
Okay.
So we're on to item 3, are we?
Yeah.
Which is declaration of interest in relation to items on the agenda. If anybody wants to speak now.
Okay, done.
Okay. And then election of a committee vice chair, if anybody wants to volunteer for that.
Yeah, I'll volunteer for that position.
Okay. I'm happy to second that if there are no objections that people want to raise. Then
Okay, thank you.
We can accept that. And then on to the minutes of the last meeting to allow me to sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a correct record. This is slightly tricky because I don't think anybody present was at the last meeting.
No, but you're still allowed to authorise them if you're happy. They're fairly straightforward. It's only single page, which you're happy to accept.
I did have a look online, and I did feel like I was happy with them when I read them. I'll explain why I thought they were okay. I thought I'd physically seen the volunteering and funding fairs had gone ahead in person, and I've seen the Cittaslow newsletter which has gone out, and I think that's basically the extent of what's on there. So having seen all those items firsthand in person, I was quite happy. There was nothing untoward there.
Okay, yeah, they're brief minutes. So if there's no objections, then I can sign those off.
Yeah, and we can you can do that at the next meeting or when you're physically in the office.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So now we have Town Clerk's reports, which is the appointment of the non-voting members, and thank you for your report on that, which again is quite brief. This is I suppose what you might call a legacy issue from prior to the election of new members, but it still needs a decision, as I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, a while back the decision was made to ask or invite nominations from the 3 organisations: Llangollen Friends of the Earth, South Denmark Community Partnership, and Llangollen Food Share. It's really up to you now as a committee whether you still wish to co-opt. You can do, you don't have to. And if you feel that it's appropriate to co-opt, do you still want to co-opt 3 people, or representatives from 3 organisations? And if you, again, do you still believe those organisations are appropriate to co-opt from? So it's a sort of a couple of things there. First of all, is whether you still wish to co-opt somebody to have a wider knowledge base, as it were, to support the committee. So if you want to take that one first, make that decision.
Well, just very quickly as a point of accuracy, 2.1 it says under the Cittaslow and climate change committees, which we aren't yet. So if we can just note that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the first question, sorry, Gareth, was that are we happy with those 3 organisations as inviting?
Well, the first one is, do you still want to co-opt? You don't have to at this stage. You can delay it. You can co-opt at any time. But as you're a brand new committee, as you say, it's a bit of a legacy from the Brats committee, who appointed or suggested co-option of organisations. Is that something you still feel you want to do as members, to have a bit more of a breadth of knowledge from external agencies to feed into the debates? And if so,
Katie and Shay, do you have a view on that?
I would probably say it would be a good idea to still have them. I would definitely consider co-opting.
Yeah, as would I. I think it's they would be an asset to the committee to have others' opinions as well on. Cittaslow seems quite a broad topic, covers a lot of areas, and I think being able to dip into other people's knowledge and areas of expertise would be advantageous.
I agree. So it sounds like we're all in agreement on that, and that we're all in agreement on those 3 listed there.
Gareth, could you just give me a little bit more background on the South Denbighshire Community Partnership? I have heard of them, but I don't know how they're within the community at the moment.
I think that's quite relevant, actually, because they were very active when this decision was made. South Denbighshire Community Partnership is based out of Cynol Fanny in Corwen. It was very much Corwen centric, shall we say, until a couple of years ago, when it got additional funding to expand into truly South Denbighshire, into Llangollen. It's been working with Dial-a-Ride. It's also expanded its Meals on Wheels and other services to the Llangollen area. I think fortuitously it took over Dial-a-Ride with the demise of the Rotary, so that was quite advantageous. And it was working with Penguin on quite a few projects, and they still are employing Pwllgor in Penguin. They are the purse holders of the fund to give that support to Penguin.
Okay.
And it was just felt that it was another similar aspirations of community support with other aspects that a representative from them would be a useful addition. So it used to be Tom, I've forgotten his surname, but Tom is no longer with them, so we'd have to ask them for a new nomination of an actual physical person. Friends of the Earth, and then I'm looking to Councillor Marshall here. It was Max Ellison, was it? But Max couldn't make it.
I'm not sure if it's Warren Davis now.
No, it's another name which I just cannot remember. I'm going a week.
Max Ellison is a name of a
yeah, but Max couldn't do it. Is one of the vets, local vets, Friends of the Earth? Or have I got that totally wrong?
I'm not sure. Whenever I've communicated with them, it's usually through Warren. But I guess this is we're inviting them, so they're not summons in the sense that councillors are summoned.
Yeah, but there was another name given which I can't remember. But again, we can go back and say it's a new committee. So, and then the food share was the chairman, which was Kirsty Jones. Yeah. So again, but we could go back because they now have an appointed officer as well.
Yeah, is that Stephanie? Stephanie also sits as a committee member for another organisation that I thought to be relevant. That's called Grow Llangollen, and that's about encouraging local produce. So at the moment, Ros Stockdale, who you might know, she's also a warden. She's running the project, and they're looking to operate the project out of Cittaslow to set up a growing scheme. So I thought that rings really true with the Cittaslow values. So I thought maybe if Stephanie Mitchell was invited from the food chair, she'd almost bring in two pools of knowledge there.
I think that's a good idea, but I wonder whether we, for the purposes of our records, if you like, we need to just differentiate that there's two organisations there, that there's Grow Llangollen and Llangollen Food Share, and whether we want to invite them to send one rep between them, or whether we want to invite them to send two.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I would suggest you add Grow Llangollen as an organisation to specifically ask.
Yeah.
I don't think we could say we'd like to contact you, but we want Stephanie.
No,
It's not up to us to ask. So,
Yeah.
you know.
so
Yeah. So
that's
if we resolve to extend the invite to Grow Llangollen as well.
fantastic.
So then you've got 4 individuals, or potentially 3, whichever way it comes out.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Great. So I think we've dealt with the recommendations in that paper. And is that you, Gareth, that would extend the invite on our behalf?
Yeah, I'll now write to and say it's been resolved, and again,
Right.
we'd like you to support us. Okay.
Thank you. So the next,
the next
so
is
the report I was going to say is the Cittaslow UK board.
As you can see, I've done a brief summary of where we are, and historically, as you can see, I mean, there were 5 towns. We've reduced to 3. I know that the chair at Aylsham has been contacting me because he was concerned, because he felt that we were not going to continue to be members, but I'm not quite sure where he got that from. But obviously we are, and on that basis, we need to appoint a representative from ourselves, not me, committee, to sit on that group, UK group. They've moved to online. They always used to meet in York, because it's like Llanbrindod, Wales. It's equally difficult for everybody to get to York. So it's like in Wales. My boss used to say it's equally difficult to get to Llanbrindod, Wales. So by default, it became the place to have meetings. But they have gone online as well. So it's appointing a representative. They then normally become the UK liaison with Cittaslow International, but that will again be for the board to decide. But that's historically in the paragraph 2 is how it's been split up. Mould do the finance, Aylsham act as a secretariat, and then Llangollen was the coordinating rep with UK, international. But that would be up for the board at Aylsham when they meet to decide. It may be changed. So at this moment, we just need to elect somebody or suggest somebody to be the representative.
I'd like to nominate Shay.
Well, do you know, I was going to say, is there anybody that would really like to do it?
I'd be happy to.
Would you be happy to do that? I think you'd fit the bill perfectly to be an
I'd
international.
second that.
Yeah, and obviously if you have to attend in York or whatever, it's a legitimate expense, so your expense will be covered by the council to attend. So you wouldn't be out of pocket for train or whatever way. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that again.
Thanks, Shay.
Thank you, Shay.
The next one is for Sunday, which I brought now because obviously we won't be meeting until probably September. So we need to make decisions as to whether you formally want to celebrate it in essence. They're being more flexible this year by allowing events before and after, so that 2-week window around the Sunday the 26th, because Sunday's not the best for some places, and it's September in Llangollen. Sundays in September can be a bit wet, so we really need to decide whether you'd like to do some formal event, whether there's some suggestions of what we could do. In the past, we've done networking events, which would be held on the town square with a fallback of going into the town hall if the weather is bad. I've reserved the town hall just in case. But, you know, it's really entirely to the membership committee what they'd like to do.
Can I just, I think it would be a shame not to.
Yeah.
But can I also just highlight that in the same week, so the 24th of September to the 2nd of October, it's also Climate Cymru Great Big Green Week. So I'm wondering whether there's some forces that could be joined, if you like, and I haven't looked into all the information on that, but I can. Given the remit of Cittaslow, it seems to overlap quite nicely. But I wonder whether we can, in principle, today say we'd like to do something, but I think it's going to need a little bit of work from members of this group fairly quickly to have a look at what could be possible. I don't know what other people think.
I know in principle, that's definitely in principle. What we would normally do is say we'll set up a task and finish group, which can be the whole committee. That means you can just go ahead and do planning without the formal necessity of calling meetings with all the ancillary, or a couple of people could meet. I mean, Shay did one, was involved with the Jubilee, and that means you could quickly meet either using Teams or in here. Get together and say, right, this is what we want to do. Just report it to me. If there's any financial costs, we've got a budget, we could put the thing together and then report back to Cittaslow what happened and what the costs were. And then similarly, that would, any costs finally go to the council, and that would be when we go through the authorised payments. We can identify that it was a cost that was incurred as a result of what we are doing. So yeah, if you want to do something and you want to take time to work it through.
How do the councillors feel?
I think, like you say, it'd be a shame not to do something. It obviously feels a little bit difficult because it's so new to all of us. But if we set up a task and finish group in the view that we potentially might be able to bring something to fruition, then at least we've formally opened the opportunity. And then if you're able to go away and, like you say, if you think it might amalgamate with or at least coincide with some other meetings that are going on.
So there's 4 of us on this committee, is that correct, with Councillor Rush as apologies?
Yeah, and Councillor Keddy
as well.
Oh, and Councillor Keddy. So that's a fairly small group. If I communicate to sort of start off a task and finish group, obviously it'll be minuted today, but with that's 5 of us then we could progress that as a task and finish and see if we can come up with some plans. But in principle, we're saying we'd like to do something, we're just not quite sure what yet.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so as I say, if you can coordinate online, you could do Teams, so, if you wanted to get things going, or if you want the physical space, you just let me know and we could get you come into the chamber and use the chamber, and then call me. Obviously to deliver, you'd involve me as well, so that I can act on anything you need doing and place any contracts or whatever. We've got 2 gazebos now, which we've paid for the Christmas festival. So they are the town councils. So those are available to use. And we've got what I call our cheese counters, which are those, when you go into Tesco's and places, and they've got those plasticky counter things to offer you samples of cheese or pickle. So we've got 2 of those we can build up to act as portable counters.
Will they have their samples of cheese?
Well, we don't have the cheese. And obviously a portable PA. So we've got enough equipment if you wanted to do something out on the square.
Yes, we've got some resources at our disposal. That's really great. Thank you.
So as I said, so if you wanted to arrange something outdoors, and then with the fallback, the town hall is booked on that Sunday, but any other dates you'd have to come back quite quickly so that we can make sure if you can't get it to coordinate. If you want to do it on a Saturday, for example, we'd have to look at seeing if the town hall's free in case it's inclement weather.
Okay, but currently Sundays are are doable.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Sarah, can you just clarify that other group that you were suggesting that we possibly work with or alongside?
Yeah,
It coincides with.
It coincides with Climate Cymru, which is a national organisation, and they're running a great big green week, but it's the same week. And as I said, I'll have to go away and find some more information because I've literally picked up a communication about that today. But they've got some online resources and some sort of suggestions for activities. So I'll have a look at it, but obviously when we convene as a task and finish, we can look and see if that's appropriate to join it up or whether we want to keep it separate. Because as I said, I haven't looked at the detail of it yet. I literally just picked it up today.
Okay, that sounds good.
Failing that, we could just do our standard networking events, a bit of publicity on the square. We've still got some leaflets left over from last year. And it will be coinciding when the next request for information for the newsletter needs to go out.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you're aware of this, the idea is people post on the on the website once, then we pick it off there and that becomes the press releases. But not unfortunately, it's the only active one at the moment seems to be the schools, for a lot of school information. So I will then send out a request. I think the easiest way is just to send out a request, and if they want something included, send the information back, because they don't seem to be using the website as it should be. But so we could gather information on that day and promote that a bit as well. What happened on the day could go into the next newsletter, which will be autumn, winter, really.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
As a quick point, you mentioned about the Climate Cymru organisation. Would it be worth going back to what we mentioned about adding growth and often? Obviously, they're a national organisation. Would it be worth having representative from Climate Cymru?
I was going to say, can you let me have a look into it a little bit, and then I'll come back on that, because I guess if they're a national organisation, they probably couldn't sit on every town council. But if they wanted to join in with our event or we're going to offer us some resources or ideas, is that what you meant?
Yeah.
I mean, you can co-opt as many as you like, but I wouldn't have more external agencies as councillors, really. I think 4 is, 3 to 4 is acceptable.
Yeah.
Because, but if you start having 5 or 6, their opinions could outweigh councillors' opinions in some respect. I know you can't really, because you make the decision, so they're non-voting. But I think it's more. I totally agree with what you say, but I think it's more local people to sit on that have gone that can influence us locally, really. But,
it'd certainly be advantageous, though, seeing as it coincides with Climate Cymru's Great Big Green Week, that seeing as we've got the facility at our disposal, that even that we extend an invite to them, so it turns our possibly small event into something better for people to come out and see if they've got a stall, maybe, and then there's double the amount of things to see. And engage in conversation with the community.
I mean, we also have this facility which was used by for the funding fair. So as well as physical presence upstairs, they had one-to-one surgeries.
Yeah.
So we made appointments. So again, if you want, when you're speaking to Climate Cymru, if they can offer that kind of one-to-one to small groups or advice on, then we could arrange this, which is,
So we've got, correct me if I'm wrong, we've got Cittaslow groups, so they're basically signed up to Cittaslow. So we've got a list of groups that are active in the community who are under our umbrella.
Well, we've got groups. I mean, I would say that anybody that wants to engage with us is part. I mean, Cittaslow is for the town. Yeah. So any group within the town is under that umbrella. Mm-hmm. But what I was feeling was, this facility is obviously avoids any representatives from, I'm assuming, but you shouldn't, that they might be based in Cardiff. So if you wanted the community groups to engage, what I'm saying, with Climate Cymru during that, on that Saturday or whatever day we pick, Sunday,
Yeah.
we could open up the chamber and then we could, make appointments so they could interact and get information. So,
Yeah.
That's a new facility we've got, which seemed to work quite well for the funders, because I think they had the lottery people from Cardiff or Mid Wales.
Are you meaning as a remote interaction? As
a remote interaction as well. So, or any other, so if they've offered that facility, or if they have a video, we got a nice little room where we can run the video and work with that. So, I think we must make advantage of all the technology we've got now as well.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So if I make a commitment to within a couple of weeks, finding out more about Climate Cymru and what they're planning and what their rationale is, and getting back to the 5 councillors on this committee and giving some information on that, and hopefully we can then set up some kind of get together, whether that's in person or remotely, fairly quickly after that, because it's not long to organise something, is it, really?
No, that's why I didn't want to put it to the September committee and then you've got the day after. So,
and then could you also confirm on the Cittaslow Sunday events, do Cittaslow International or the head of the organisation offer any, and like you said, there could be a video facility or to demonstrate what Cittaslow is and does in other countries and what it's about? Is there a resource of information that we could play, or if
there are videos. If you go onto Cittaslow International website, there are videos on. They've been doing good practice videos, so yes, that's available. And again, that could be something that we could project onto the big screen upstairs. So if you've got something, we got so many options, to do.
So I'm just wondering, as our newly nominated link person, whether that's something you could just have a quick look at and check out, and then we'll be able to bring some information back to the group.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. My agenda's slipped off my screen, but I think that was the last item.
That's it, yeah. As I say, we really need to get going again, and that's why climate change is quite important, and it is an element of Cittaslow, and that's the rationale behind trying to link it. But perhaps when we've had this weekend now, that's something you may want to consider going forward if you want to expand your remit to cover those aspects, because we've achieved quite a lot with Cittaslow, although people say they don't understand what it is, funders do, and I think we can't hand on heart say that it contributed, but I think the fact that we stated what a Cittaslow town has helped on a lot of the funding applications we've put through. So, I think it's something that we wouldn't want to lose, and it was hard work run, really. And I think when we were in this room, when we were awarded it, it was a bit like rabbits in a headlight, because we thought, what are we going to do now, as it were. I think the difference between a lot of Cittaslow towns, we were already doing it, and that was a lot we didn't like mould, we had to create certain things and do a lot of things that we were already doing in it. And I think it's other things are catching up as well. Climate change agenda has got very similar aspirations, so other things in the world are catching up with the ethos of Cittaslow. So yeah, but again, if you want to bring things forward for consideration in September, let me know. We can talk through things and suggestions. The webinars worked well, particularly during lockdown. Whether you want to consider another programme of those in the spring, that's something we can consider in September. Or again, as I say, we used to do the successful community cafes, which we used to expand ideas and involve the community, and that emanated initially from a Cittaslow meeting, and the last big thing that came from that was the community plan. So, and there are elements in the community plan that Cittaslow would have to address as well. So we've all had a copy of that, but we need to move forward to that, to create a business plan for the town council to take those elements forward as well. So it's all integrating it together really, to anything you want to progress. And as I say, if you want, it's scheduled for 4 meetings a year. If you require other meetings, we can just arrange, other meetings in between. And they don't have to be extraordinary meetings. They don't have to be called by the chair. If I feel we need to move something because an opportunity comes up, we can call an ordinary meeting and just go ahead. Okay. And as I say, the task of finish is really a way. It's not saying, it's to move away from the formal procedures so that we can just get things done and then report it back to the formal procedures. So once you resolve, you set it up, you've got the authority to work collectively to get something together, and then we work on that then. And
so is that something you now go away and do?
Well, it's established as a task and finish group. So if the chair calls the next meeting,
okay,
involve me in it, and then any decisions that come out of it, I'll implement them then.
Okay.
Sorry, it glitched a bit there, Gareth. So you're saying you don't necessarily have to be at that meeting, but it's just a way for us to progress the work outside.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to have the formality of agendas. It's still either agenda, obviously, but it doesn't have to be a published agenda. It doesn't have to go on the website. We don't have to set up the public access. It's an internal arrangement that is a task and finish group. And then I say anything you need, the only thing, I mean, I'm quite happy, obviously would like to be involved. And then anything that tipples out of it that needs to be implemented, I would then implement it. So it's just to get the ideas going forward, to move things a bit quicker than waiting till a next formal meeting and have to do all the formal procedures.
Yeah.
So you've resolved that, so that gives the authority of that group. But bearing in mind, like under the induction, that's not giving carte blanche as it is to make decisions as councillors. You still have to
come back with some proposals, essentially.
Yeah, it's developing the proposals, and then you'd ask me, can you go ahead and get this done? And then, we'd follow it up with a report to say this is the actions we did.
Yeah, and you're happy that I contact, as I said, that I contact the other councillors though to sort of get some information starting to be shared?
Yeah. Like you can contact Climate Cymru and say you're the chair. We'd like to work with you. Can I gleaning information and then reporting back is fine.
Right. Okay.
But if you told them you're going to give £100,000 to support a campaign, that would be wrong.
No, I'm not about to do that. So we've covered the agenda, haven't we? And I think we've covered the business. I just had a quick question, but if that's the agenda covered, I guess we could close the meeting. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a chat. It's no problem. I'll just close down the recording, which is the easiest, and then you can say what you like then.
Okay, just let me know when it's done.